We've just had the new RST Tractech Evo D3O range land in store, and it's one of those releases riders immediately start asking about. The Tractech name carries a bit of weight now. Loads of people have owned one, tried one, or at least considered one. So whenever a new version appears, the big question isn't just what's new, it's does it actually matter when I'm riding? So instead of rushing through specs or doing a 5-minute overview, we're going to slow this down and talk about the jacket properly. What it's trying to do, how the protection works in the real world, what's improved, what's changed, and the little quirks you only notice when you're actually handling this gear every day. If you like proper rider-focused breakdowns like this, not just marketing talk, hit like and subscribe. It helps us keep making long-form gear guides that actually go into detail. So if you're new here, I'm Jamie from Moto Central, and today we're looking at the new RST Tractech Evo D3O. Right, let's start with context, because that matters here. The Tractech line has always lived in the aggressive sports leather space. It's aimed at riders who want track-inspired protection and styling without jumping straight into premium race brand pricing. The Evo 5 hit that sweet spot really well. It felt serious, it looked the part, and people trusted it. The Evo D3O version isn't a reinvention, it's more like RST stepping back and saying, how do we modernise this protection and comfort without losing what riders already liked? And that brings us straight into the most important part of the jacket, the armour system. You're getting level 2 D3O armour in the shoulders and elbows, and this is where theory meets rider experience. D3O behaves differently to traditional rigid armour. When you're moving normally, it stays flexible. It doesn't feel like hard plates fighting your body position, but under sudden impact, it stiffens instantly to absorb and spread force. That flexibility matters more than most people realise. When armour moves naturally with you, you stop thinking about it, you're not constantly adjusting your sleeves or feeling restricted when you lean forward. The jacket becomes part of your riding posture instead of something you're battling. Now here's where real-world nuance comes in. Some of our shop staff have commented that the D3O in this jacket feels a bit firmer than what they'd experienced in other D3O equipped garments. It's still fully certified level 2 armour, protection isn't questioned, but comfort perception is subjective. Some riders will love the reassurance of a slightly firmer feel. Others may notice it straight away. It's not a flaw, it's just something worth being aware of. One genuinely nice touch is the adjustable shoulder armour mounting. The shoulder protectors sit on Velcro panels, so you can reposition them slightly to match your body shape. That's more important than it sounds. Armour only protects properly when it's sitting over the joint it's meant to cover. This lets you fine-tune that instead of hoping factory position works for everyone. The jacket also includes pockets for chest and back armour, which brings us to something riders absolutely need to know, and we're going to be completely honest about it. The older Evo 5 jacket actually came with a back protector included. The Evo D3O doesn't. It's pocket only. On top of that, the new jacket carries a small price increase. So yeah, some riders are going to find that disappointing, and that's understandable. It doesn't suddenly make the jacket unsafe. The shoulder and elbow armour upgrade is a genuine improvement, but expectations are shaped by what used to be included, and buyers should plan to add a back protector if they want to complete the setup. Being upfront about that matters, because trust is more important than pretending changes don't exist. Backing all of this up is AAA CE certification, the highest abrasion and seam strength rating available on motorcycle garments. That rating isn't marketing fluff, it means the jacket has been tested to withstand serious sliding forces, seam stress and impact scenarios. In simple rider terms, this is serious protective leather, not fashion gear pretending to be motorcycle equipment. And that protection story doesn't stop at the armour inserts. The jacket's outer shell uses premium drum-dyed cowhide combined with AST Pro reinforcement. Leather is still the benchmark for abrasion resistance in aggressive riding, and drum dyeing allows it to be softened over time without sacrificing strength. AST Pro reinforcement is essentially RST building extra structural integrity into impact zones. Instead of relying on a single seam or panel, forces are distributed across layered sections. Add bonded nylon triple stitching throughout the jacket, and what you have is gear designed to stay together when it's under real stress. None of this is flashy. You don't see it on the hanger, but it's the stuff that matters when gear is actually tested in a way nobody hopes to test it. So when you step back and look at the protective philosophy here, the goal is pretty clear. Modern impact armour, reinforced structure, high abrasion resistance, all packaged in a jacket that still feels wearable instead of rigid. And that balance, protection without making the jacket feel like body armour, is where the D3O is trying to sit. From here, the conversation naturally moves into how all of the protection integrates with comfort, movement, ventilation, and real-world riding. Because protection only works properly when the jacket is something you actually want to wear. And that's exactly what we'll look at next. So once you understand what the jacket is trying to do from a protection standpoint, the next big question is how all of that actually feels when you're wearing it. Because the reality is, protective gear only works properly if it's comfortable enough that you actually want to ride in it. And that's where the materials and construction start to matter just as much as the armour. The outer shell is premium drum-dyed cowhide, and leather like this is still the benchmark for aggressive riding because of how it behaves in a slide. But what riders actually tend to notice first isn't crash performance, it's how the leather feels when you put it on. Fresh off the hanger, the jacket feels firm and structured. That's intentional. Sport leather is designed to hold its shape and support armour positioning. But drum dyeing allows the leather to soften and relax over time without losing its strength. The more you're riding it, the more it starts to mould to your body and your riding posture. That breaking process is part of owning leather. It goes from feeling like equipment to feeling like it belongs to you. RST have paired that leather with what they call AST Pro Reinforcement. In simple rider terms, that's strategic layering and structural support in areas that you see the most stress. It doesn't change how the jacket feels day to day, but it contributes to that sense of solidity when you're wearing it. There's a reassuring weight and structure to the jacket that tells you it's built for real riding, not just showroom appearance. Now, where leather jackets can sometimes fall short is heat management and flexibility, especially if you're riding in mixed conditions. That's where the ventilation and internal construction come in. You've got panel-in-panel perforation built into airflow zones. Rather than just punching holes randomly through the leather, the airflow is engineered so that you get cooling where you need it without weakening impact areas. On the road, what that translates to is steady airflow across the torso and arms once you're moving. It's not a summer mesh jacket, that's not what this is trying to be, but it takes the edge off heat building up during warmer rides or stop and start traffic. Inside the jacket is a quick dry stretch mesh lining. This is one of those features riders don't think about until they've experienced the alternative. Leather directly against skin or a basic liner can feel sticky during a long ride, especially if you're sweating. The stretch mesh manages moisture and allows the jacket to move more freely with you. It reduces that stuck feeling and makes the jacket feel less restrictive when you shift position. Then there's the removable quilted thermal gilet. This is where the jacket gains a lot of versatility. When the liner is installed, the jacket feels noticeably warmer and more insulated, ideal for cooler mornings or colder season riding. Remove it and the jacket becomes more breathable and easier to live with in milder conditions. That's not about turning this into an all-weather touring jacket, it's about extending the usable temperature range so you're not locked into one season. Movement is another area where this jacket shows its sport focus. Motion panels are integrated into key flex zones so the jacket supports a forward-leaning riding posture instead of resisting it. When you reach for the bars, lean into a corner or adjust your position, the jacket moves with you rather than fighting back. That's a big deal on longer rides where restriction turns into fatigue surprisingly quickly. Comfortable details matter more than most people expect, especially around contact points. The neoprene sports collar and cuffs are there specifically to soften the edges where leather would otherwise rub. Around the neck and wrists, the small change becomes noticeable over time. It's the difference between constantly adjusting your jacket and forgetting it's even there. And this is where you start to see how the jacket is trying to balance structure with wearability. On one hand, it's unapologetically sports leather, firm, protective and supportive. On the other, it's built so you can actually ride in it for hours without feeling like you're wearing armoured plating. Real-world showroom experience adds another layer here. When the jacket is brand new, everything feels tight and structured. The zip, the leather, panels, and that's part of the breaking process. As the jacket beds in, it becomes noticeably easier to live with. Riders who understand leather expect this. New buyers sometimes don't. That's why it's worth saying out loud. This jacket improves with use. What you end up with is a piece of gear that feels purposeful. It's not trying to be ultralight or casual. It feels like equipment, something designed around rider dynamics rather than fashion, but with enough comfort built in that you don't dread putting it on. And the balance between protection, movement, ventilation and comfort is what makes this jacket something you'll actually choose to ride in. Which is the whole point, because the best protective jacket in the world doesn't help if it stays on the hanger. From here, the conversation naturally shifts into fit, how this jacket is supposed to sit, why it feels tight at first, and how riders should think about size and adjustment. And that's where things get really interesting, because sports leather behaves very differently to casual riding gear. This is where a lot of riders try on a jacket, feel the initial tightness and immediately assume something's wrong. But with a jacket like the Tractech Evo D3O, that snug feeling isn't a flaw, it's intentional design. This jacket is cut around a sports riding posture, not a relaxed standing one. When you're upright in a shop, it can feel restrictive across the shoulders and arms, but the moment you lean forward into a riding position, everything starts to make more sense. The jacket is built to sit correctly when you're on the bike, not when you're standing still. Leather behaves very differently to textile gear. Fresh leather is structured, it holds its shape to keep the armour positioned properly. Over time, with heat, movement and riding posture, it relaxes and moulds to your body. That breaking process is part of what makes leather feel personal. It literally starts conforming to how you ride. If a sports leather jacket feels loose or comfortable in the showroom straight away, there's a good chance it will become too loose after a few rides. And when that happens, armour can shift away from the areas it's meant to protect. So that initial snugness is there for a reason. It ensures the protection sits where it should once the jacket beds in. Most riders will end up true to size with this jacket, but body shape always plays a role. Broad shoulders, longer arms, or a more athletic build can change how it feels. The key thing is not judging the fit purely by how it feels standing upright. Move your arms, simulate a riding posture, and pay attention to where the armour sits. This is also where the adjustable shoulder armour becomes genuinely useful. The protectors are mounted on Velcro panels inside the jacket, allowing you to reposition them slightly. This means you can fine-tune where the armour sits over your shoulder joint. It's a small adjustment that can make a big difference in both comfort and real protection. When riders complain about armour feeling awkward, it's often not the armour itself, it's the positioning. Being able to dial that in helps the jacket feel more natural while ensuring that protection is actually doing its job. Another thing worth mentioning is how leather changes over time. The first few rides in a jacket like this are always the stiffest, but as the leather warms, flexes and breaks in, it becomes noticeably more forgiving. Riders who stick with the breaking process are usually surprised by how much the jacket relaxes while still feeling protective. Fit isn't about comfort in the casual sense, it's about controlled movement. The jacket should feel supportive, almost like it's guiding your posture rather than restricting it. That's why motion panels exist in the key areas. They allow the jacket to flex where your body needs to move without sacrificing structural integrity elsewhere. The waist adjusters also play an important role here. They let you fine-tune how the jacket sits against your torso. A secure fit helps keep the armour stable and prevents excess movement at speed. Again, it's not just about comfort, it's about making sure protection stays aligned with your body. What we often tell riders in store is this: sport leather should feel purposeful, not relaxed. You're not dressing for a casual walk, you're gearing up for a riding posture that involves leaning, reaching and shifting weight. The jacket is designed around that movement pattern, and once you understand that philosophy, the fit starts to feel intentional rather than restrictive. This is also why trying the jacket in a riding stance, even just leaning forward slightly, gives a much better impression than standing upright. It changes how the shoulders sit, how the arms feel, and how the armour aligns. When the fit is right, the jacket feels more secure without being suffocating. You're aware of it, but it's not fighting you, and that's exactly what sports leather is supposed to feel like. From here, the next layer of the conversation shifts into everyday usability. The little things riders notice when living with the jacket. Zips, pockets, finishing details, and how those real-world quirks don't show up in spec sheets but absolutely matter when you're using the gear day after day. So once we've talked about protection and fit, the next thing that really matters is how the jacket behaves in everyday use. This is the stuff that you only notice when you're actually zipping it up, putting things in the pockets, riding in it repeatedly, and handling it day after day. Spec sheets don't tell you this part, real world experience does. Let's start with the main zip, because that's the first interaction you have every time you put the jacket on. The zip itself is strong and confidence inspiring, exactly what you want from a piece of sports leather that's designed to hold together under stress. But when the jacket is brand new and the leather is still stiff, lining the zip up can feel a little fiddly. Some of our staff picked up on that straight away. It's not broken and it's not poor quality, it's more a combination of tight new leather and heavy duty zips that haven't bedded in yet. What tends to happen is that after a handful of rides, once the leather relaxes slightly, the zip becomes more easy to engage. It's one of those early ownership quirks rather than a long-term issue. Riders familiar with leather expect the break-in phase, but it's worth mentioning for anyone new to the sport so that they're not surprised. Next up is pocket usability, another area where expectations matter. You've got 2 external pockets and 4 internal pockets, which sounds generous on paper. In practice, the outer pockets are on the smaller side. They'll comfortably hold essentials, keys, a card wallet, maybe a phone, depending on the size, but there isn't cargo storage, and that's deliberate. Sports leather prioritises structure and protection over bulk. Oversized pockets can interfere with how the jacket sits and moves. The internal pockets are more forgiving and better suited for items you want secured inside the jacket. Think of the external pockets as convenient storage rather than capacity storage. Living with the jacket day to day, you start to appreciate how everything is positioned to stay out of the way when you're riding. Nothing flaps around, nothing disrupts the silhouette, and nothing compromises the protection structure. Another real-world observation, and this one comes straight from handling multiple jackets, is the finishing consistency. We've noticed on some units that the central logo doesn't always sit perfectly aligned. You can actually see it on both of these jackets. It's purely cosmetic, it doesn't affect protection, durability or performance in any way, but detail-focused riders will spot it. This is one of those moments where showroom honesty matters. No gear is perfect, especially at this price point. What matters is whether cosmetic quirks impact function, and here they don't. It's simply something riders may notice when inspecting the jacket closely. Beyond those quirks, the jacket feels purpose-built in daily use. The race hump, for example, isn't just visual drama, it contributes to airflow stability and speed and adds structure to the upper back. You don't consciously feel it working, but it becomes part of how the jacket sits and stabilises when riding aggressively. The shoulder cups are another feature that blends usability with protection. They're designed to reduce friction in a slide and help disperse impact forces, but in everyday riding they simply feel like part of the jacket's protective shell. You're aware of their presence, but they don't interfere with the movement. The 360-degree connection zip is one of those features you might not think about until you use it. When paired with the trousers, the jacket becomes part of a unified system. It prevents ride-up, keeps armour aligned, and makes the whole setup feel more cohesive. Even for riders who aren't hitting the track, that sense of security is noticeable. Comfort details like the neoprene collar and cuffs continue to stand out in daily use. They soften the areas that would usually otherwise rub, especially during longer rides. It's the kind of feature that you stop noticing, which is exactly the point. Good comfort design disappears into experience. What really comes through when living with the jacket is that it feels like equipment, not clothing. It's structured, deliberate, and built around riding dynamics. You don't forget you're wearing it, but you also don't fight it. And once the leather begins to break in, that sense of stiffness transitions into familiarity. These small, practical observations are what separate showroom impressions from real ownership experience. They don't change the jacket's purpose, aggressive sport protection, but they shape how it feels to use day after day. And understanding those quirks up front helps riders go in with the right expectations. Sports leather isn't meant to feel casual, it's meant to feel purposeful. And once you accept that, usability makes a lot more sense. From here, the conversation naturally moves into aesthetics and identity, how the jacket looks, why riders care about that, and how it fits into the wider Tractech system with matching gear. Once you've lived with the protection, fit and practicality side of the jacket, the next layer is something riders absolutely care about, even if they don't always say it out loud. And that's how the jacket looks and what it represents when you're wearing it. Sports leather has always carried a bit of identity with it. You're not just buying abrasion resistance and armour placement, you're buying into a certain style of riding. The Tractech Evo D3O leans fully into that aggressive sports aesthetic, and it doesn't try to pretend to be anything else. The panel layout, the race hump, the shoulder cups, the sculptured silhouette, all of it is designed to eco-track inspired gear. When you put it on, it feels like performance equipment. And that matters more than people sometimes like to admit, because confidence plays a role in how riders experience their gear. When something looks purposeful, it reinforces that feeling that it's built for serious riding. Colour choice is part of that identity as well. The jacket comes in 4 colourways: black on black, black and white, black with fluo red, and black with blue accents. Each one gives the jacket a slightly different personality while keeping the core Tractech look intact. For me, the fluo red version is the standout visually. The brighter tone highlights the panel structure and gives the jacket more presence compared to the flatter red finish seen on earlier versions. It draws attention to the design lines and makes the jacket feel more dynamic on the bike. The black and white option leans toward that classic race aesthetic, clean, high contrast, unmistakably sport focused. The black and blue variant softens the look without losing its aggressive edge, while the all black version is the stealth choice. It keeps everything subdued while still carrying the same sculptured silhouette. What's important here is that none of these colourways feel decorative for the sake of it. They're integrated into the jacket structure rather than sitting on top of it. The graphics follow the panel design instead of fighting it, which keeps the whole thing looking cohesive. And on that idea of cohesion extends beyond the jacket itself. RST designed the Tractech Evo D3O as part of a system: jacket, trousers and boots that visually and functionally work together. When you pair them, the lines and colour accents align, creating a unified look. It's not about matching for the sake of fashion, it's about reinforcing that this is performance gear designed to operate as a complete setup. Riders who like coordinated kit will appreciate that consistency. It gives the whole system a sense of intention. You don't look like you've assembled random pieces, you look like you're wearing a purpose-built sports outfit. There's also a psychological aspect here. When riders gear up in cohesive systems, it reinforces the mindset that they've dressed for riding, not for commuting. It becomes part of a ritual. Zip up, connect the jacket to the trousers, step into boots, and the gear starts to feel like an extension of the riding experience rather than something to be separate from it. That doesn't mean everyone needs to run the full match setup, but the option is there for riders who want it. And it speaks to how RST have positioned the RST Tractech Evo D3O, not as a standalone jacket, but as part of a performance ecosystem. Ultimately, aesthetics aren't superficial in sports gear. They communicate purpose. They influence how riders feel when they put the jacket on. And when the visual design aligns with the protective intent, the whole package feels more coherent. From here, the natural next step is looking at how the matching trousers continue that philosophy, not just visually, but how they function as part of a two-piece performance system. Now that we've talked about the jacket as a standalone piece, it makes sense to look at the trousers, because the Tractech Evo D3O system is really designed to work as a complete two-piece setup rather than separate items that just happen to match. A lot of riders treat trousers as an afterthought, but in a sports-orientated system like this, they're just as important from both a protection and movement standpoint. Construction-wise, the trousers mirror the jacket's philosophy. You're getting the same AAA CE certification, which tells you that they're built for serious abrasion resistance and seam strength. That's critical because lower body impact zones, hips, knees, outer thighs, are some of the most exposed areas in a slide. Protection comes in the form of level 2 D3O armour in the knees and hips. Just like the jacket, the idea here is that the impact absorption occurs without turning the trousers into rigid shells. The armour moves with you when you're riding, but stiffens under sudden force. That balance between mobility and protection is what keeps the trousers feeling like riding gear instead of restrictive padding. The outer construction uses premium drum-dyed cowhide reinforcement in key impact areas. When you're wearing them, you feel the same sense of structural confidence as the jacket. They're supportive, purposeful, and clearly built around aggressive riding rather than casual wear. Movement is handled through integrated motion panels positioned to support riding posture. When you're on the bike, knees bent, weight shifting, the trousers flex where they need to without pulling against your body. That's important not only for comfort, but for maintaining natural control over the bike. Ventilation flows with the same logic as the jacket, with perforated zones allowing airflow while preserving structural strength. It's enough to take the edge off heat buildup without turning the trousers into something fragile. Inside, you've got a lining system designed for comfort and versatility, including a removable thermal layer that extends the usable temperature range, which is helpful for riders who aren't sticking strictly to summer riding. Like the jacket, it's about adaptability rather than trying to turn a sports leather into all-season touring gear. Where the trousers really come into their own is system integration. The full 360-degree connection zip links them securely to the jacket. Once connected, the two pieces behave like a single garment. This prevents the jacket riding up in a slide, keeps the armour aligned, and gives the whole setup a cohesive feel. For riders doing fast road riding or track days where two-piece gear is allowed, that connection is essential. Fit follows the same aggressive philosophy as the jacket. These aren't relaxed leather trousers, they're cut around a riding posture. When standing upright, they'll feel snug and structured. On the bike, they'll settle into position and start to make sense. That's where sizing detail becomes important. All colour variants of the trousers are available in regular leg length, and the black on black version is also offered in a short leg. The extra flexibility helps riders dial in proper armour positioning. Knee armour sitting too high or too low can compromise protection and comfort, so leg length options matter more than people sometimes realise. The trousers also feature quick release knee slider mounts, reinforcing their sport intent. Even if you're not dragging knees, that hardware speaks to the trousers' track capability design. What you end up with is a lower half that matches the jacket, not just visually, but functionally. They move together, protect together, and feel like a unified piece of equipment once connected. And that's really the point. This isn't about buying trousers separately, it's about completing a system designed for aggressive riding dynamics. From here, the next natural step is the boots, because once you're talking about a full performance setup, footwear becomes just as important as what's happening above the waist. Once you've got the jacket and trousers working as a system, the final piece of the puzzle is boots. And this is where a lot of riders underestimate how much footwear influences both protection and bike control. Sports boots aren't just about protecting your feet. They're about stability, feel, and how confidently you can operate the bike. The Tractech Evo boots are designed to carry the same philosophy as the rest of the system. Serious protection, aggressive ergonomics, but still wearable enough that you're not fine to them every time you ride. One of the biggest updates here is the internal shaping. RST redesigned the inner foot profile to slim the forefoot area, which might sound minor until you're actually riding. The slimmer profile improves feel and the controls, especially around gear changes. You get more precise feedback through the shifter instead of feeling like you're operating the bike through bulky padding. Protection-wise, the boots integrate D3O armour in the shin and ankle zones. Just like in the jacket and trousers, the idea is impact absorption without sacrificing mobility. Your ankle still moves naturally when shifting or repositioning your foot, but there's a real energy management built in if things go wrong. Supporting the Armour is reinforced outer structure, TPU protection in high impact areas, a moulded heel cockpit, and a polycarbonate anti-twist shank built into the sole. The anti-twist element is particularly important because it stabilises the foot under load. In a crash scenario, uncontrolled twisting can cause serious injury. The boot structure is there to reduce that risk while still allowing natural riding movement. There's also hinged ankle support, which helps balance flexibility with stability. When you're walking around, the boots feel supportive without being rigid. On the bike, the hinge system allows controlled movement instead of forcing your ankle into an unnatural position. Comfort is where these boots surprise a lot of riders. Earlier sports boots often felt like protective shells first and footwear second. The updated Tractech Evo boots are noticeably more wearable. The internal lining, dual density insole and overall shaping make them realistic for longer rides, not just short blasts or track sessions. The closure system uses a zip and hook and loop arrangement that secures the boot firmly without excessive fuss. Once zipped in, the boots feel locked down in a reassuring way, not crushingly tight, just stable. Grip and feel through the sole are tuned for riding rather than walking. The outside gives you solid purchase on pegs while maintaining enough flexibility to move naturally when shifting your foot position. And visually, the boots complete the Tractech setup. The design lines and colour accents tie in with the jacket and trousers, reinforcing that sense of coordinated performance setup. Again, it's not about matching for fashion, it's about creating a unified piece of riding equipment. When you step back and look at the boots in context, they're not trying to be race-only footwear that pushes you off the bike. They sit in that sweet spot, sport-focused protection and control with enough comfort to live with day to day. And that matters because confident foot placement, ankle support and impact protection all contribute to how planted you feel when riding aggressively. At this point, you've got a full system: jacket, trousers and boots, designed to work together around sport riding dynamics, which naturally leads to the bigger picture. And the question, how does the entire setup compare to the alternatives? And where does it sit in the market? If we look at alternatives, something like the RST S1 D3O is aimed more towards everyday sport riding. It's still protective, but the fit and feel leans slightly more relaxed. Riders who want aesthetics with less aggressive ergonomics often gravitate there. Then you've got options like my personal favourite, the Rebel Horn Veloce. This jacket has a premium feel and strong comfort credentials, but it carries a AA rating rather than AAA. For many riders, that trade-off makes sense, especially if comfort is the priority. Others will lean towards the higher abrasion rating of the Tractech. Move further up the pricing ladder and you're looking at premium sports leather from brands like Alpine Stars and Day & Easy. Those systems often carry race pedigree, high-end finishing and strong brand identity, but the cost rises quickly once you've built a full jacket and trouser setup. For some riders, that premium experience is worth it. For others, the Tractech system delivers the level of protection they want without stretching into race budget territory. And this is where the Evo D3O system finds its identity. It's built for riders who want serious sport protection, aggressive styling and system integration, but who also want value. Not cheap gear pretending to be protective and not premium race pricing, something that sits confidently in the middle. We should also circle back to the expectations here, because comparisons aren't just about specs, they're about ownership experience. The Tractech system is unapologetically sports focused. It's structured, snug and designed around riding posture. Riders expecting casual comfort may feel better service elsewhere. Riders chasing that purposeful sport feel will immediately understand what this kit is doing. This is why honest comparison matters. There isn't a universal best jacket. There's the right jacket for how you ride, what you prioritise and what you expect from your gear. If you want to explore those alternatives, we've linked the jackets we've mentioned in the description and comments, comparing side by side price, fit, philosophy, certification and feel. This is the best way to figure out what aligns with your riding style. Seen in the broader context, the Tractech Evo D3O isn't trying to dominate every category. It's trying to deliver high-level sport protection and a cohesive system design at a price point that makes sense for riders who want to step into serious leather gear without going full race spec premium. And when you understand that positioning, the whole system starts to make more sense. Not as an isolated product, but as a deliberate choice in a crowded market. Which brings us to the final piece of the conversation. Who is this system really for? What buyers should expect? And how to approach the decision with clear eyes. So after breaking all that down, protection, materials, fit, usability, the full system and how it compares, the final question becomes pretty simple. Who is this actually for, and what should riders realistically expect if they're thinking about buying into the Tractech Evo D3O setup? At its heart, the system is built for riders who want aggressive sports protection and styling without stepping into full premium race pricing. It's aimed at people who ride with intent, fast road riders, track day enthusiasts, and anyone who prefers gear that feels purposeful rather than casual. This isn't relaxed walk-around leather, it's structured, supportive equipment designed around a riding posture. When you understand that, the snug fit, the armour placement, and the overall feel stop being surprises and start making sense. The protection is strong, AAA certification, D3O armour, reinforced construction. This is serious gear designed around real-world crash performance. At the same time, it balances that protection with movement and comfort in a way that keeps the jacket wearable for longer rides. There are honest trade-offs, and it's important to say them clearly. The new jacket no longer includes a back protector, which the previous Evo 5 did. Combined with a small price increase, that's something buyers should factor in. It doesn't undo the protection upgrades, but it does change expectations. Planning to add a back protector is part of buying this system. There are also small usability quirks. The zip can feel fiddly when brand new, the outer pockets are compact, and finishing details like logo alignment may not always be perfect. None of these affect the performance, but they're part of the real ownership picture. What you get in return is a cohesive sports system that feels built for riding. Jacket, trousers and boots working together around protection, posture and movement. Once broken in, the leather becomes more personal. The fit settles and the whole setup starts to feel like equipment you trust rather than gear you're testing. And that's really the key takeaway. This system rewards riders who understand sports leather. It's designed to be worn, broken in and ridden hard, not just admired on the hanger. If you're coming from casual gear or expecting touring level comfort, this may feel more structured than you want. If you're chasing aggressive protection and sports ergonomics at a sensible price point, this is exactly the space that the Tractech Evo D3O is meant to occupy. If you want to experience that fit and feel for yourself, we've got the full Tractech range available in our showroom. Trying it on, moving around in it, and seeing how the armour sits makes a huge difference. And if you're shopping online, we've put direct links in the description for the jacket, trousers and boots. And also the comparison gear we talked about, so you can explore everything at your own pace. Ultimately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer in motorcycle gear. Just the right balance of protection, comfort and purpose for how you ride. The Tractech Evo D3O system sits confidently in the aggressive sports space, delivering serious protection with honest compromises and strong value. If this breakdown helped you understand the gear a little bit better, give the video a like and please subscribe for more deep dive gear guides and check out those links below. Thanks for watching. I'm Jamie from Moto Central. Ride safe and we'll see you in the next one.